Floppy Waffle 69 here, and today's video we are continuing our Down the Line series. We've arrived at the Tier 9 light cruiser for United States Navy, the USS Seattle. Now, right out the gates, I have to say, this ship was a pain, and is a pain to play. I'm not a big fan of this ship. I think this ship's design, like the way it's designed in the game, is rather flawed. Looking at its actual hull and gun turret arrangement, superstructure layout, like the actual way the ship's built is not very good. And you'll see what I mean as we progress to the armor layouts and we talk about the gun firing angles and stuff like that. The stats on the ship aren't terrible, and on paper, the ship looks like this wouldn't be bad. Like as a light cruiser, it checks a lot of boxes, it fulfills a lot of roles. But in game, the way the meta is, the way just everything handles, I don't think this ship is very good. And the buffs that Wargaming did give the ship don't really help the ship anymore. Like, what am I trying to say? The buffs this ship received from Wargaming aren't addressing the major flaws with the ship. They're just allowing you to have more flexibility when pushing in, I guess, based upon the way the turrets turn now, the way the gun firing angles react in regards of you aiming. Which is like, why the fuck would I ever push into my Seattle unless I'm like pushing a lone destroyer with no support? I really have no idea why. I think it's one of those things that Wargaming just looks at the line as a whole. It's like, we're going to make line changes and put all these changes in, but not going specifically to each ship and tailoring buffs and nerfs to each ship. Like we kind of saw that, for an example, with the Libertad line. The buffs and nerfs received to all those ships were kind of like copy pasta all the way down. The Tier 9 actually received received nerfs because it needed it. But then the Libertad really doesn't receive anything other than like, oh, now you can't like turn as fast or whatever the fuck. You know, it's like, or accelerate into turns and drift on the ocean. Like, what? But we're going to try to stay positive. And just talk about the Seattle as much as we possibly can. There is a lot of negatives, and we're going to make sure we address those issues. But right off the gates, kind of to sum up this whole review in a nutshell, is the ship has potential, but the ship is very hard to play and play well. It is not uncommon to do anywhere between the ranges of 50 to 70,000 damage a game or less, and that's like a standard game. Even less damage, to be honest, like 40, 50,000 damage. This is why I don't recommend this line for newer players. It's very hard. There is no mitigation tactic other than a heal at tier 9 and tier 10. You really have to know, you really have to have map awareness in the way the game operates to get the most out of them. A lot of people might disagree and say, oh, it's just an HE spammer through and through. Yeah, but like you have to understand where to position your vessel, and battleships can just say, yeah, fuck you and blap you if you don't have hands and you don't know how to play the ships and how they handle and understand all that. And plus the floaty shell arcs might not be friendly to newer players either. But to us that have played the game a little bit longer, maybe the more experienced player, that really shouldn't be an issue. We're definitely licking our chops at the HE DPM on this ship, which is actually second highest in tier 9, I believe, if I'm looking at it. Yeah, only getting etched out by the Sinyong. The Sinyong's coming in at 288,000 HE DPM, where the Seattle has 243,000, which is just slightly higher than the Dalian at 240,000 for the HE DPM. For the armor piercing DPM, I believe it is the Neptune clearly, then the Buffalo, and then the Seattle. Seattle's clocking at 354,400 and some change, where the Buffalo has 360,000. The Neptune obviously is breaking 400,000 because it has short fused AP and it only fires AP and it has 12 guns. But this has 12 guns as well, but you have HE, which is, in my opinion, a more impactful shell. It's an easier shell to utilize, and it allows for damage over time damage rather than just raw pen damage as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds in that regard. I've always told you AP-only cruisers are a little bit more niche in what they do, and a little bit more situational, and require, aiming, where HE just is, spray and pray, essentially. Unless you're trying to hit specific parts of the ships to ignite all 4, or if they have 3 for fire prevention on the ship to light fires. But enough blabbering on. Let's go ahead and talk about the Seattle, kind of look under the hood, see what the ship is made out of, talk about her stats, raw stats for us, and then we'll go ahead and show some gameplay on her. So first things first, we're going to head over to the armor layout. 25 millimeter nose, 25 millimeter ass. Plating, we actually have 25 millimeters now as a side section with a deck that has 51 millimeters with an upper deck, I guess, auxiliary deck with his 27. 51 is nice. I actually didn't know that first off, but realistically, you're coated in superstructure. It's you're gonna take damage. Like you're a light cruiser too, so the hull is like whatever. 102 millimeters on your armor belt effectively, and then with the Citadel, it's massive, guys. I mean, it stretches. It extends past the turrets. Like holy fuck. Gone are the days that we have the Citadel just under the smokestacks and not under the turrets. Those are submerged. Now it's all above water. Once again, Wargaming really making cruisers' lives harder, but battleships, I guess, just have turtlebacks and spaced armor and black hole armor nowadays, or just can't be Citadel flat out. Yeah, it's tough. You're gonna have to play around this, and it's hard. I'm gonna show 2 games. First game's a little shorter. Second game's a little, normal size, normal length, I guess. But yeah, you're gonna see me get Citadel. I think take a double Citadel off the get-go from the hull, which is you're like your Shocker, right? It's Shocker, the hull, right? With 203 millimeter guns, armor piercing. And then I believe I take some from the Rune. I think I eat a Citadel. And then obviously I get absolutely dumpster fucked through the nose from the Musashi, which is like Shocker, 460s, overmatch, right on. So yeah, the armor's nothing to write home about, guys. Like realistically, a 51 millimeter like back deck is nice, but that's so niche that when you're actually going to be able to benefit from that. So don't don't rely on that at all in the slightest. Survivability, you're clocking in at 43,600, I believe. Let me just double check. I think I took off all the signal flags, so that should be correct. Yeah. So 43,600 for the actual health of the Seattle. Again, we are retaining that 4% torpedo damage reduction, so it's basically non-existent. You have the tools necessary to dodge incoming torpedoes. I would say for the most part, you have the maneuverability. So you should be realistically and reliably not eating torpedoes from ship-launched torps. Submarines with their homing torps, it's a niche. It depends. And then obviously aerial torpedoes depends as well. So going to the artillery, as you saw from the gun firing angles, we do have some 360-degree turrets now, which are pretty nice. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the 3 and 4 turrets both turn 360, if I'm not mistaken, or if maybe it's just the third. I'm not 100% sure. I forgot already, guys, but we do have some 360-degree turning. I think they're all 4 turrets do turn 360 degrees, so that is, I guess, nice. But again, it's only really helping us when we're pushing in because our turret firing angles in itself, as you saw, are pretty ass, especially 3 and 4. Guys, in order to get all 4 turrets on target at a time, you're basically going to be showing a side profile like this. I mean, it's bad. You're going to be eating Citadels. If you're ever engaging a Seattle, and the Seattle is firing his rear 2 turrets, just shoot AP at the waterline, you're going to get Citadels. It's not that hard. This ship is literally a definition of a floating glass kayak. But talking about the turret arrangement, we do have the 4x3 152s, which is a lot of firepower for 152s for, faster firing HE spammer, which is clocking in with the reload buffed down. I believe the stock reload on the main battery is about 6.5 seconds. I recommend mod 3, which is going to get it down to 5.7 so we can fire a little bit faster. 180-degree turn time of 22.5. Now, as you saw in my upgrade slot, I actually, in the 3rd slot, I don't take aiming systems. I actually take main battery, was it mod 2, which is going to up the turret traverse by 15%. For the love of God, guys, I cannot recommend this enough for this ship. The turrets, I don't know what it is on these things, but they turn so fucking slow. They actually have a 180-degree turn time of 22.5 seconds. That is ridiculous. That is so fucking ridiculous, in my opinion, for a Tier 9 light cruiser. I don't like it. I wish that would be buffed a little bit in the realms of reality. Well, you know what I mean. Reality in game, not like actual life. Because it makes it really hard to utilize. Perfectly honest with you. Maximum dispersion. I guess we are clocking out to 15, so let's go up to 16 kilometers. You're clocking in with a horizontal dispersion of 143 meters with a vertical of 87 with a sigma of 2.05. Not terrible, right? Pretty standard across the board. Her high explosive shells, moving on to the high explosive shells here, 2200 maximum HE damage with a 12% chance to start a fire with 30 millimeters of HE penetration, effectively giving us around 13.3 fires per minute. And that's again with the reload of 6.5. I believe that obviously will go up. If with the Tingle Flags and Demo Expert for 14 fire percent chance, you can actually probably get that up to around like 16 fires per minute. This ship will set fires. Again, this line, as you've seen down the line so far, the whole line can and will set fires pretty reliably. And that is one of the things it actually has going for it. So, let's see. Going to the armor piercing, we have the 3200 maximum AP damage with the shell velocity again of 762. We have the shell velocity of the HE shells at 812. Again, I've talked about this in other videos. Really won't notice this or be splitting hairs if I'm going to be talking about these two numbers. You'll be using AP usually when you're in closer ranges. So seeing the shorter, floatier shells is like, it's a facade. You're not going to really notice it, guys. So. Airstrikes, yes, thank God. We don't have ship-based ASW. We have the aerial-based ASW, which is huge. A defenses. For me, the Seattle's AA is rather lackluster for what it should be. 285 continuous damage. Looking at her ranges, she has her long range clocking in at 105, I believe, damage. And you have her short and which is her medium range, which is 3.5, which is clocking in at 290. That's like the really big heavy hitter damage. And then the short range of these with 2 kilometers with the DPS of 149. Flak count is 4+1 if you take the skill for 5. I just don't understand why the AA is such trash on the Seattle. Like the ship isn't that strong anyways, and what thing they could really buff her on is actually make her have potent AA. And they don't. I think this was like a preliminary design for the Worcester, and I could see why they didn't go with the ship in more ways than one. The ship is just fucking trash. I don't understand why some of these numbers are the way they are, and I don't know why Wargaming doesn't address these issues. Like, everybody knows by now, and Wargaming should know that the Seattle is not a very good boat, and why Wargaming doesn't make necessary changes to these ships after 4, 5, 6 years later. It's like, fuck, guys, come on. It's a little bit frustrating at this point, realistically speaking. Again, I forgot to talk about the one thing on this ship that you drop compared to the Cleveland is you just drop the 127 millimeter dual purpose guns as for secondary. So this ship actually has no secondaries. You'll see that on the Worcester as well. Again, you're not really looking for secondary damage with your like on your cruisers. Like it's not really there. Maybe the occasional fire or whatever, or low health DD hit. But it will add AA, which I think the AA is not bad because it actually adds to your long range AA. But the long range AA on this thing is trash. I mean, yes, your range now is 6.9. Great, because we pick up more 40 mil Bofors or whatever the fuck it is. Hold on, that's the wrong one. We see AA. You pick up like these 40 mil, 56 millimeter Bofors, which is nice, and you pick up these 152 millimeter, like your I guess your guns now are dual purpose theoretically, which is sick, awesome. But you're only doing a long range DPS of 95. Like, that's utter trash. So yeah, you could start shooting longer, but you're doing less damage at long range. Like, bump that up to like 100 and something. Like, I don't know. And also the flak is criminal on this thing with 4+1 to 5. Like, I think this thing should be starting off base of 6. Like, you're going on a light cruiser line to, I guess, have more of a supportive role. Like, you're taking that support role even further, especially in the anti-aircraft role. And yet this thing has comparable, like the Worcester and all that has comparable to like the Des Moines. It's like, it's really not standing out that much. Back in the day, the Worcester was a menace. And then I'm going down to the Seattle, and it's like, you're comparing to the Buffalo. It's like, I don't know. You're really, again, splitting hairs to see who has better A between the Buff or between the Seattle. And I just think that's one thing they could do to the Seattle is really distinguish it, is like make it have almost like a no-fly zone. But, I guess I can dream, right, as a cruiser, man. Going to the maneuverability of the vessel, clocking in at 33 knot speed with a rudder shift time of 8.7 seconds and a turning circle radius of 750 meters. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say that these ships, like, that the Seattle isn't very maneuverable, because, like, that would be a lie. But, I mean, we're going from, like, ships like Dalian, Suzuya, Ibuki, Sinyong, Blucher, Buffalo, Takahashi, all have better rudder shift times. And we have 8.7. The Buffalo has 8.4. What? I mean, again, you're splitting hairs between 8.7 and 8.4, but I just I don't understand that either. And then the turning circle radius, okay? Like 600 meter, the Gonzaga, Dalian 660 meter, Signong 670, St. Louis, or sorry, St. Louis, 720, Brest 720, Brindisi 730. Going down the list, keep going, keep going. Johan de Witt 740, and then we at number 12 spot we get to the Seattle with 750. I, why this thing doesn't go sub 700 is just ridiculous to me. I mean, again, then I could also say about the Vallejo was 740 meters too. Like, I don't know why that's up there, but fuck it. Like, crazy, crazy. Some of these stats really would help this ship, and I guess Wargaming has no interest. I guess what we really wanted was better um, forward firing turret angles. I guess is what everyone was crying about in the Seattle or something like that. I don't know, guys. Going into the concealment values of the ship, again, a lot of light cruisers. I mean, I think all light cruisers really live or die based upon their concealment values. Um, and going through her concealment, it clocking in at 11.8 kilometers. With the tier 5, or sorry, the slot 5 concealment module, you're going down to 10.7, and then with the commander, you have 9.6. Not bad, not bad. Whatever. Don't really mind it. Firing from smoke is 5.9. That's not bad either. That's not bad. Neptune's crying on a corner, but not bad. And then obviously her consumable loadout list. Radar is the only way to go. Don't even waste your time with the other two. It is pointless. Um, but yeah, like fucking thank God we finally have a heal on this thing. Yeah. So you do have the radar. It is 9 kilometers, so 9.6. You have that 600-meter gap between getting detected and radaring. So it should allow the DD to turn flat broadside to you before it can turk tail and run. While it's in its mid-turn, you should catch it if you sail straight in. But usually sailing straight in will make sure that you're highlighted so that every battleship can nuke you. So again, it's one of these things you have to be extremely careful about, guys, and realize that this ship is made out of paper fucking mache. Obviously, I do recommend the surveillance radar modification 1 plus 20% to your action time of your consumable, which is getting out to 46.2 seconds, which is exquisite, guys. Could definitely keep DDs located for a long time, keeping them spotted, depending on how deep they are caught in your radar, and smoke firing cruisers as well. So always nice with that. So that is one thing that these things have, which is a very long radar duration. But again, for the hull to be compatible with that, it's like a better hug an island and hope you have allies assisting you, because holy shit. But yeah, guys, that is the Seattle in a nutshell. Talking about her stats and whatnot. Again, as you can see on paper, the ship's stats aren't bad. But when you get in game and you try to apply the statistics that Wargaming's given these ships, or given this ship, it's hard. It's so hard to play this ship, guys. And I think I'd be doing a disservice to you guys if I didn't show the first game I'm going to show, which again highlights the DPM and all that, but it's the first game. I believe we were on Okinawa and we spawned seaside, so there is no island coverage. So trying to play this ship in open water is tough. And obviously, I'm not going to fucking tuck tail and run and change flanks. That's retarded. You should never really do that unless you're playing competitive, like ranked or clan battles, and you have everyone's in voice chat and you're talking about it. It's randoms after all, right? God, this ship was a pain, guys. And again, finding adequate games to show you guys to produce this video was tough. It was tough. I mean, I did end up getting an E rank, just a sure fucking perseverance and will. But man, it was tough, and I have to be honest with you, the gameplay overall was just not very fun for me, and that's coming from someone who loves cruisers, especially light cruisers, right? If you have a different opinion on the Seattle, if you love her, that is your prerogative. Maybe you would say, hey, Floppy, I would change this and I'll give it a go. But I've played multiple builds. I've done multiple changes. And the two builds, like captain builds I've highlighted on there for you guys is the ones that I found to be decent. I believe the second captain build was the one I used in order to achieve the E rank. But I'm 50-50 on which one I'd recommend. I could recommend this one 50% of the games. I'd recommend this one 50% of the games. And it all depends on AA. Because the A on the ship should be so much better than it is. So that's why I build her for AA, because it's like getting her to the levels where she just should start base is basically what I'm thinking. To sum up this thing too as well, like I had more enjoyment playing the Omaha and doing that video for you guys than I did the Seattle. So if that doesn't like put a red flag on this ship, I don't know what does. My honest opinion on this thing is this ship still needs love. It is nowhere near where it should be. But will Wargaming do that? Probably not for another 3 years. Like, we made some changes to the line again, and they're gonna fucking change stupid shit. Like maybe they're gonna adjust its ASW, because that again, what everyone's crying about. Like, it's just not really understanding what what the problem with the ships are. And I think you guys can see that from across, like down the line, from a lot of these ships that we're giving buffs and nerfs. They don't really address the flat issues with the ship. They just change subtle stats. Like, and I don't understand why. Realistically, right? Incredibly frustrating. But without further ado, let's continue the video and show you guys some gameplay in her and go over some tips and tricks. So let's get on over to that. Alrighty, guys, and here we are in battle with the USS Seattle here at Tier 9. Now, again, this ship was incredibly frustrating for me to play. I had to play it a lot, so I kind of got a good grasp of how to play this ship to some degree. The biggest thing I can tell you with this particular boat compared to other games is, do you have the tools at your disposal for potential carries? Yes, you do. But actually executing those carries with the tools you have, with the ship you have in this particular boat is incredibly difficult and very situational. It's just one of those things. I consider the Worcester to be way more tanky, the Cleveland to be more tanky. Sometimes I find with those ships, the way their armor layouts are, sometimes shells get lost more in their holes. Kind of like black hole armor. I'm not certainly spaced armor. I don't think these ships have that. Just with their armor schemes, how lightly armored they are, there actually increases their, how actually heavily armored they are is based upon how lightly armored they are, because shells just get lost within their armor schemes. It's one of those weird wargaming tools used against them, right? Based upon how shells act in the game. But the reason I say that is just because this ship, that doesn't happen. You just eat citadels, and I think this particular battle has examples of that. And other battles have examples of that as well. It's just one of those finicky, weird things, and you're going to see that. I think it's totally common to, once per battle, twice per battle, to eat a citadel from somewhere. Not uncommon. So, definitely not uncommon. Okay. The Baltimore comes out broadside. You would think our battleships would get ready to punish him. Yeah, not really that much. So, notice how, because I'm at ranges of 12 plus kilometers or whatever, I'm still sticking with the HE. It's just going to allow these ships to just have, the HE is just going to be the better choice. There's no point putting armor piercing at that ranges. I'd much rather be closer in order to do that. Obviously, the Wichita comes around here, so I'm going to go ahead and respect his 203s, but realize also that, hey, maybe I can cheek out some all four of my gun turrets, just because, hey, he's not focused on me. He's more focused on my allied destroyer. So we're going to go ahead and deal as much damage as possible in a short amount of time with our high explosive, which again is doing good work. I mean, you do have 12 152mm guns that reload just under 6 seconds. I mean, you would hope that the guns would do good work, right? So, and the Seattle definitely doesn't disappoint in regards of the armament side of things. Actually, some might even go as far as saying the one thing this has over the Worcester, like the one thing going for it, would be that this thing's turret arrangement is a little bit more comfortable to use for people that have already, ground down this line to get the Seattle, than with the Worcester, which is going to have those two 152mm guns. So, but then again, the Worcester's turrets are turning like in what, 6-8 seconds, which is going to be incredibly comfortable, especially going from this when I'm telling you to spec not only expert marksman, but main battery mod 2 to decrease the rate, increase the rate at which your turrets can turn, so they can turn faster to keep your all your barrels on target at a single time. because I don't know what it is, but when they made this change, and I don't remember the Seattle ever being that bad, but when they made this change with 360-degree turrets, to me, it's like, holy fuck. It's turning levels of like battle cruiser or heavy cruiser levels of turret traverse for some reason. I don't understand why. I've told you, I ranted about this just a little bit ago in the port screen view of this ship. Kind of, puts a lot of question marks above my head when I look at that particular stat on this ship. I mean, I really don't think that that should be a balancing factor in this thing, and I don't think the Seattle really needs that to bring it into like the realms of balance. But whatever. Obviously, now we're in sub 10 kilometers. I'm going to test my luck with the armor piercing. And again, look at all those penetrations. Kind of what I've been talking about. You're going to find yourself with that 0.0110, or sorry, 0.010, so 0.010. Fuse time on your armor piercing, you're going to notice that it's going to be super comfortable. Obviously, here's a mistake. We eat a Citadel there. Definitely not uncommon to do. So to eat Citadels, like I said, and now I find myself between two heavy cruisers, which both are loading AP as they should because the Seattle is just fragile. So, yeah, we go ahead and we get both these kills that we thought we were going to get a double strike potentially. Both are killed by our allies. Pretty much. Thank God we actually pick up one of those kills. I actually thought I didn't get that kill for a minute, but yeah. So, but now comes a even a bigger problem, which is the semi-armor piercing on Italian battleships. They will slap you. Obviously, they have more than enough penetration on their sap, and they're hard hitting as well. And I know this, so I'm trying to do my best to mitigate as much as possible. And if you're in a light cruiser like the Seattle, the best thing you could possibly do is just to flat out dodge the entire salvo, because there's just no way you're going to be able to mitigate damage in regards of going like nose in. Like here, I forgot. I thought he fired all of his turrets. There's his rear turret, and it takes me down by, what was that, like 8K? Crazy damage that can be pumped out with the semi-armor piercing. Definitely a super annoying projectile, for sure. For sure it is. But whatever. Doesn't really matter. I don't want to sit there and talk there about the semi-armor piercing. But as you can see, big tech day utilized, and I've utilized this with all these ships down this line so far, and you're going to be utilizing this with your Worcester as well. Is you're going to have to use island coverage to really mitigate the amount of targets that can fire at you at one time, and you can also abuse the island coverage to potentially shoot your rear two or your front two turrets while staying concealed. There is a time later on here in the game, actually pretty soon, where Vyazma pushes into B, and I'm sitting there flat broadside just firing my front two guns, but I'm undetected. Really playing with fire here, because at any given moment my ship could be coming, could get detected, and I could just be burst fired, blapped out of existence in this game. You have to be careful in understanding how your acceleration start and stopping works. That's why I recommend taking that prop mod in the slot 4 instead of the rudder shift mod. You're just going to get more out of it in more games usually. But yeah, so again, here's a good example of the Seattle farming behind island coverage. What the DPM that the ship can crank out. I mean, it is leading. It's the second highest ship in Tier 9 regards of her HE DPM. She could definitely crank it out. I think only getting etched up by the Sinyong, I believe, is what I already stated. So definitely utilize this. And again, the damage it could probably do with the penetration, because it's 152 rather than those 127s that I believe the Sinyong gets. So theoretically speaking, the DPM is going to be more. There's going to be more damage racked up with this DPM rather than, I guess, the hitting DPM is what I'm trying to say, rather than the Sinyong's hitting DPM, which again is going to be very situational on targets and relying more on the fires. It's going to be setting, relying on the raw, rather than relying on the raw damage that the ship is going to not be doing, right? So. But yeah, again, another thing I want to talk about is I obviously don't take IFHE on any of these ships. To me, it makes no sense. Your fire chance is already insanely good, and why would I neuter that in half just to up my penetration to cross meaningless thresholds, realistically? I just don't think it's worth it. I think what you go from 26 to 30, and all that's doing is allowing you to penetrate the majority of heavy cruisers. I just don't think it's a very good skill to take on these ships. I don't necessarily like the skill IFHE anyways in the game. I think it doesn't really encourage you to take the skill, and there's too big of a drawback about cutting your fire chance in half. I'm not really a big fan of that, but I wish there was some kind of other different. I'm not saying make it easier, I'm not saying, don't cut your fire chance in half while keeping that same 25% increase in penetration values with your HE, but there is something, I think they could tweak that skill around a little bit, maybe change it around, maybe to do something a little bit different, make it a little bit more user friendly. If you really invest in it, then you're really going to be noticing it. So, but whatever. Yeah, the skill just is kind of bleh. I don't really like it. So I'll stop. I'll leave it off at that. Here we go. This is that part I was talking to you guys about, and we're going to be going ahead and abusing the island here in order to fire our front 2 guns off on this Vyasma, the perfectly balanced Vyasma with the burst fire mode and I guess improved AP and HE shells. If it switches to its burst fire mode, I'm going to be playing around with the throttle here, going forward and back with the engine power. You have to be extremely careful because this will, in fact, get you killed. Thank God our Talon comes in there and throws away his ship in regards to kill the Vyasma, which, again, is it worth it? I don't know. You tell me. I mean, at the end of the day, the Vyasma's pretty fucking broken, so the fact that he was able to do this particularly was very, very nice. And we'll take that for sure. But another tip that I like to give in the Seattle is definitely early game. As I stated with the Cleveland wants to rush forward and really try to find that island, hug it, and utilize that radar as it can with 9.3 kilometers detection with a 9 kilometer radius radar range. The Seattle has 9.6 full stealth rigged, and then it has the 9 kilometer radar as well. I would try to execute that same mentality, that same thought process, but the problem is with the whole, once you get to these larger tiers, when battleships, in my opinion, are more accurate, there's bigger calibers, a lot more guns going down range, it is really making it difficult to execute that on a lot of the maps. It's very spawn dependent, is what I guess I'm trying to say. You really have to read the map in order to know if you're going to make it in time. And kind of know what kind of ships are in play. Like obviously, if there's a Bungo or a Slava, those are definitely some ships you want to know where those guns are at all times. Just those sort of things. Seattle is definitely not a forgiving ship. Okay, to basically sum it up, it's not a forgiving ship, but it has the necessary tools that it can do extremely well. But yeah, it is. It's very difficult ship to play. I think if you're routinely doing well in your Seattle, it really is showing kind of your mastery of light cruisers and just, well, not just the Seattle, but also light cruisers in general. And it really illustrates that you have a concept of the game. You know a little bit more, especially if you're playing it competent. And you're getting really good results in her. Getting like 70,000 damage plus in her in your Seattle and edging out 1 to 2, 3 kills a game. I mean, I think that's impressive numbers in the Seattle, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure someone's going to be out there or someone's out there that's probably going to disregard what I'm saying and say, hey, there's no way, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And that's fine. I mean, hey, everyone's out there. Everyone has an opinion by all means. I guess the last thing to talk about, is the Seattle a competitive ship? Well, let me put it this way. I think with the less enemy targets, out there in game, I think the ship's play style and carry potential goes way up. I guess carry potential goes way up. Because the biggest downside to this thing is 4+ enemy battleships on the team, and once you get spotted, you just get fucking deleted. And theoretically, in ranked or clan battles, or I mean, not that there has a tier 9 clan battles, but ranked, there could be those 1 to 2 battleship games. It's less you have to worry about on the regards of defense, and more you can position yourself on offense. And just position yourself in general to go and find enemy destroyers. I think the Seattle is very, very good at finding enemy DDs and deleting enemy DDs. That is where that would be my main focus as a Seattle. I wouldn't really do more like other ships. Like they have that too, like the Cleveland, the Helena. Like obviously they can delete, and obviously the Worcester too. They can delete the DDs, but I also think that they can sit there and farm battleships and cruisers as well. Whereas the Seattle, yes, it can do that, but I think its main highlight is going to be tracking down and finding enemy destroyers and destroying the enemy DDs. So, obviously not a bad result, not a phenomenal result in our Seattle, but we still end up doing 128,000 damage and 13 fires, again showing and emphasizing the fire potential that this ship has. This ship is very capable of doing great fire damage. I think it even highlights, if we go to our detailed report, just how much damage we ended up racking up with our fires. So which is crazy when you think about it. With the high explosive shells coming in with basically the bread and butter of our ship with 83,000 damage, just in our high explosive shells alone. So, but anyways, guys, this is the Seattle, little review on the Seattle here, a little analysis. I'm not a big fan of this ship, though I still think you should play her, because it will teach you kind of like the final things you need to really know before you head on to the Worcester, guys, which will be the next video in the series, and it'll be coming up shortly. So, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video for today, and stay tuned because the more videos will be coming down the pipeline, and especially the Tier 10 Worcester video will be coming down the pipeline as well. So, anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one.